Hi BookTube, I'm here finally with my April wrap-up at the end of May. There's just been no excuses. I just hadn't gotten around to it until now. So let's get into it. First, I DNF'd a book. That is The Viscount Who Loved Me by Julia Quinn. It's the second book in the Bridgerton series. I hadn't read the first, but I heard that the series was pretty good representation of it. And the series I had some issues with. I hopefully know which plotline I'm thinking about. But I wanted to know more about the other siblings and other characters. So I figured I'd give it a go, even though I don't really like romance novels. I can't say I don't like them. I've never read them before, so I couldn't say whether I like them or not. I really did not have a good experience with this book. Because there were a lot of rapey vibes going on. Like, Anthony was really, like, not taking no for an answer. He didn't, like, he couldn't read the signs that this girl was uncomfortable with his advances and everything, and, you know, there was a forced marriage, you know, because of a scandal, and it was just, like, I couldn't do it. When I got quite a ways through it, I got, you know, past the engagement, and then he was gonna rape her, but it, you know, it seemed to be the thing to do in the book, and I was just like, okay, you know what, if there's rape in the first one and there's rape in the second one, I'm done. I'm not doing this. It's supposed to be romance, not this. Anyways, there's some books that I didn't quite finish in April, and one I finished in May, and one I will be finishing in June, but I thought I'd include them here anyways. So this is my to be continued, and that is The Human Factor by Greene. I finished that in May, actually. I was really enjoying this. I was really close to the end when May hit, not enough to include it fully in the April wrap-up. So this is a real-life spy story, not at all like James Bond. Like, this was basically, Greene himself was a spy working in espionage, and this was very much based on real life, and it focused on dealing with South Africa, and a lot about racism and the color bar, and, you know, it takes place in England, but he worked with South Africa, and he ended up marrying a black woman, and the issues around that as well. And Thrawn by Timothy Zahn. I like how that rhymes. I just didn't get far enough into it, and I didn't feel like reading it in May. To be honest, it felt really slow. Not a lot of action was happening, but I really want to see more of Thrawn. He's one of my favorite characters. So here's onto what I finished, which was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 things, which is pretty cool. So I read Uneducation by Jason Eaglespeaker, which is a graphic novel about the residential schools, and it's done by different artists, different stories. There's actually like newspaper articles and stuff in there. It was really good. I'm looking for volume 2 right now to purchase. Yeah, I'd highly recommend it. It's a very good introduction to the issue. Next is This Accident of Being Lost by Leanne, Betasamosake, Simpson, and this is a collection of poetry and I wouldn't call them short stories. Well, yes I would, but also more like flash fiction. They're very, very short, and you know, they just present like sometimes just a scene as opposed to like a whole story, but it was so beautifully written. I look forward to reading other things by her, for sure. Yeah. Then I read Inside Out and Back Again by Thanhha, and this is a middle grade novel told in poetry, and it is about a young girl coming from Vietnam during the war over to America, and I just was so enthralled with this book. I couldn't put it down. It was so beautifully told in the poetry, but she didn't shy away from, you know, some disturbing imagery at times too, but presented in such a way that, you know, wouldn't traumatize middle graders. And one of the big things that stood out to me from that is how smart she was when she was speaking Vietnamese and in Vietnam, she's like, I went to school, you know, I was doing advanced math, I was reading literature, you know, Vietnamese literature, and then suddenly she has to come to this new country, learn a new language, and, you know, she's not as smart, you know, in English. She doesn't seem or sound as smart in English as she is in Vietnamese, and that was really something that struck me. Yeah. Then I read Mirror Mirror by Sabine C. Bauer, and this is a Stargate Atlantis novel, and the Stargate Atlantis novels could be horrible and I'll still love them, but this one was not horrible. It was actually really good. And I'm disappointed that she hasn't written something of her own yet, not that I could find anyways. I'd like to read more by her. Mirror Mirror is about the Stargate Atlantis team. They're not a military team. They're actually led by, the leader is a civilian, and then they have like scientists, and they're people from all over the world. So on the team we have an American, 2 Americans, a Canadian, the doctor, he's not featured in this, is Scottish, and then there's 2 aliens who are, you know, humanoid, or look like humans, are humans, but are from this other galaxy. And there's a Czech scientist as well. So anyways, they discover this thing that will change the timeline so that the big enemy in the Stargate Atlantis universe will never have existed. And they do this, and what ends up happening is that the timeline ends up splintering into, you know, many pieces, and the team gets scattered throughout these different timelines and different alternate universes and have to find each other again and find the originals of each other again. So it's really cool. It's really well done, really well thought out story. Then I listened to Silver Sword and Stone by Marie Arana, and this is, I believe it's subtitled 3 Crucibles in Latin American History. And the 3 crucibles are silver, which represents wealth extraction. She talks not just about the Latin America after the conquistadors, but also about the civilizations that were there before the invasion as well. So we get a wide history here, but I really like it because it's done by these themes. So we talk about wealth extraction, and what she does is also she relates these to a modern day person, so makes it really like relatable and breaks it down. So wealth extraction, sword is about violence, and stone is about religion. So it's really cool. I really highly recommend, if you're interested at all in Latin America, to read this book. Then I read Blankets by Craig Thompson, which is a graphic novel about a young man and his experience with religion, abusive family, and first love. Yeah, it's a really touching story. And I could relate to actually the feeling of being in a religious event, especially one that you sleep over at, so you're like entrenched in this, because I did that in university, and it's kind of scary how caught up in everything you get, and you just and you know, do everything. I had to personally take a step back and be like, whoa, this is a little intense. I don't know if I agree with everything that's going on here. I had to rethink things, and it's interesting to see him go through that too in the graphic novel. I really appreciated that. I also read Fables Volume 15 by Bill Willingham, and this is about Rose Red, finally coming to and retaking leadership over the farm. Fables, if you don't know, the basic premise is that characters from fables and fairy tales and folklore are real and have been pushed out of their universe into the mundane universe, our universe, and that it goes from there. It gets very complicated by volume 15. Then I read The Savvy Convert's Guide to Choosing a Religion, which was it felt very kind of dated, like 2000s, kind of offensive stuff going on in some cases, but it was a good kind of very basic introduction. It takes one page to talk about 99 different religions, like 1 page each, and breaks them down into like pros and cons, and here's religious texts and how many people are in it and how much it costs and what you're expected to do and those kind of things. And then talks further about like different types of religions and things that you encounter in religion and stuff like that as well. So it was a good introduction. You have to go into it knowing that it's, you know, put out by Knock Knock Publishers. So it's probably going to be, you know, just a little bit trying to be funny, but of course they're dealing with people's religions. And I didn't feel like they were hard enough on Scientology. I'm just going to come out and say that. Yeah. Then I read Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, and that book is amazing. I just... The overarching theme that I got from it was what it means to be a woman and to be an independent woman, and femininity, and, you know, embracing who you are and not letting other people bring you down and try to pit you into a certain place and what they think you should be. You know, just bashing stereotypes. And yeah, I can really see where Zora Neale Hurston and her anthropological background comes into with her exploration of this town. So it takes place majorly in this town that was set up as like the first all-black city. And I don't know what era it was, but, you know, in early 20th century. Yeah, and it's really good. I highly recommend you read it. It's very easy to read. It's not like, you know, your typical classic language. It's actually told a lot in dialect, but it's not hard to understand the dialect as well. So yeah, overall, a really enjoyable read. Then I read Inkheart by Cornelia Funke, and that was a reread for me. Yeah, that, it was kind of disappointing, to be honest, to reread it. I think I got it as a gift when it first came out, and I loved it. And I went on to read the second book, and I haven't read the third book, which is why I was rereading this book. And it has one of my least favorite tropes in it, which is where people get captured and then escaped and then get captured by the same people again and then escape and then get captured by the same people again. And I'm just like, I hate repetition like that in books. I'm like, why couldn't they get all of that plot done in the first capturing and then move on? Because this book is like 500 pages long, and I'm like, it could have been like 200 pages shorter if you just stopped with all this repetitive escape and recapture and escape and recapture. Yeah, if you don't know, Inkheart is about a man who can read characters out of books, and there's consequences to that action. Yeah, and it turns into this big adventure story. Yeah, I will continue with the series because I want to know how it ends. But yeah, it was a little disappointing coming back, you know, 13, 14, how old am I now? Like, back when I was teenager-ish, I believe, is when I first read it. So yeah. And lastly, this is actually the first book I read and finished in April. Actually, I don't do the books in any particular order, just whatever I think of to write down first on my list. Is How to Argue with a Racist by Adam Rutherford. It's a very short audiobook. I highly suggest it. It's talking about how the science of genetics kind of can be used to disprove racism, and especially the pseudoscience that racists often use. Yeah, it talks a lot about, you know, athleticism and stuff like that, and it talks a lot about lactose intolerance, which was some weird argument that racists were using. I had to laugh at that. I was like, are you serious? Like, you think you're better because you can drink milk? Like, try eating like spice, dude. Like, I bet you can't do that. Whatever. Yeah, it was really, really well put together. Very short, succinct, brief, to the point. I like that. in nonfiction. I just like it, you know, don't drive it home. Like, be confident that your statement, you know, told like once or twice over will be enough to get through someone's head. Trust your readers to be intelligent. And I really appreciated that Adam Rutherford did that. Courtney here, and I forgot about a book that I finished reading in April. We're talking about April, not May. And that is House of Chains. Finally, it's only taking me 4 months to finish that book. Yeah, that is the 4th book, I believe, in the Malazan series. And what can I say? It is... it's not the best Malazan book. We do get introduced to a new character, and he's a really cool character, Karsa Orlong. I want to say, like, initially when the book started off with his story, I thought, okay, we're in a whole other place now, and I was like, I really don't like this character, but like, stick with it, because his character arc is one of the best character arcs in fantasy that I've read. He's a really cool character. Yeah, we're actually finally getting to the whirlwind and the great big battle between things, and it does not go how you expect, let me tell you that. But it is very well done, I think. I really love that this is more fantasy about people. Well, yeah, people. They're different, like, races and species and stuff like that, so I guess we can just call them people as a generalized term there, right? Different species. Yeah. So, yeah, I finally finished the 4th Malazan book. Who knows when I'll pick up the 5th, but yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's my April wrap-up. Let me know what you read in April, and if you've read any of these and your thoughts on them. Spoilers, welcome, because I have finished them, and thank you for watching.